Hello, I'm Annabelle Tiffin. Welcome to Northwest Tonight. Tonight we are live from the RHS Flower Show at Tatton Park, which this year is celebrating its 25th birthday.
It's lovely. It's just lovely to be here and for the sun to come out as well. Oh, we're here, yes.
Also on tonight's programme, police launch an investigation after a fire kills 2 adults in Blackpool and injures 2 children. A Hillsborough law, Martin's law and Awab's law, 3 Northwest tragedies which led to new legislation in today's King's Speech.
This feels like the beginning of the end of the campaign, and hopefully I'm right.
Fears of NHS cuts as Greater Manchester's health bosses are told to slash £180 million from their spending.
And finally, it's starting to feel like summer, but the big question is, will it last? Well, join me and Pudsey at the end of the programme. We'll give you all the details.
Good evening. Welcome to Tatton Park for the first day of the RHS Flower Show here. It's all very quiet at the moment because the show has ended. Everybody's packed away for the night, but they will all be back tomorrow. Now, this show is celebrating 25 years on this site. It rather ages me because I think I have been to every single one. I came in 1998 with my mum, then I was here with pushchairs, and then, of course, coming here for work. And I have to say, every single year has been an absolute joy, no matter what the weather. Speaking of which, I'm not on my own. Look who's here among the rosebuds.
They've let me in the flowers. Yeah, the big build-up. It's been a bit tricky here at Tatton, given the soggy summer that we've had. But remarkably, the sun came out just in the nick of time and the crowds flooded in. And what fun they've had. I don't think I've seen so many happy faces underneath such fabulous summer hats, looking at some incredible flowers and gardens, Annabelle.
I love these because they don't look real, but they are real, I can promise you. This one's slightly alien looking. If anybody knows what it is, please let me know. I love that. Anyway, we will be taking a look at the gardens in full later on in the programme, including our own. But for now, let's go back to Ian Haslam for today's news.
OK, thanks, Annabelle. And you start with some very sad news this evening. Police in Blackpool are investigating a fire which has killed 2 people in their 20s and injured 2 children, one of whom is now in a very poorly condition. Firefighters were called to a blaze at a property on Peter Street in the resort in the early hours of this morning, as Jonas Muller reports.
Emergency services at the scene of a house fire in Blackpool thus claimed the lives of 2 people. Officers were called here just after 2:30 this morning. A woman was found dead in the house and a man died later in hospital. Both are the parents of young children. Jade Hartill's brother, a neighbour, tried to carry out a rescue.
And he smashed the front door window and the little boy was behind it and he pulled him out. And we could hear the dad shouting, "Help, help," and you'll never get that out my head, you know. It was just tragic.
2 children were taken to hospital for treatment. One of them is said to be in a poorly condition.
Work is ongoing with our colleagues from the fire service to establish the cause of the fire. We are keeping an open mind at this stage. You can see the cordon which has been placed behind me. The entirety of the scene, internally and externally, is under investigation at the minute.
A small number of properties have been evacuated, with several people being supported by Blackpool Council. As far as the wider investigation is concerned, no one has been arrested.
It's tremendously sad. I can only imagine the pain that those families and relatives of the 2 children and the parents are feeling right now. And as I say, my thoughts go out to them.
Investigations are likely to continue for a number of days as police try and establish what caused this tragedy. Jonas Muller, BBC Northwest, Tonight, Blackpool.
Hillsborough, the Manchester Arena bombing and the death of 2-year-old Awab Ishak in a mould-infested flat. 3 Northwest tragedies that all look to have had their legacies secured because of legislation announced in today's King's Speech. They've each led to 3 new laws which the government is now meant to bring forward over the next year. This report from Phil McCann.
For Figan Murray, the King's Speech was a moment to put down the knitting.
Seek to establish
the appropriate legislation.
It's 7 years since her son Martin Hett was killed in the Manchester Arena bombing. And since then, she's campaigned for a new law over the way public venues prepare for terrorist attacks.
My lords and members of the House of Commons,
which the King today pledged his government would introduce.
Measures will be introduced to improve the safety and security of public venues and help keep the British public safe from terrorism.
But this is all familiar to Figen, for good reason. It was mentioned in the last King's speech under the Conservatives. But unhappy with the lack of progress, Figen walked from the spot where her son died to Downing Street to lobby the Prime Minister, who committed to introduce the law, but then the same day called the general election.
It just feels different. I just feel I want to associate words with the new people, such as integrity and sincerity.
Also today, another legacy for Hillsborough. The 2016 inquests here into the tragedy didn't just exonerate Liverpool fans and lay so much of the blame at the feet of public bodies. They also led to a campaign to require public servants to tell the truth, with legal consequences if they don't. That was in the speech.
It's a really, really promising first step. Quite emotional, really, hearing it and thinking about all the people that have been involved in the journey a long, long time.
Charlotte Hennessy lost her dad Jimmy at Hillsborough. She was 6.
We don't ever want anyone to experience or suffer the mental torment that we did. So it does feel like, a bit of a triumph today.
Finally, the legacy from the death of 2-year-old Awa Bishak in Rochdale in a flat full of mould which killed him. After a campaign, the last government committed to new time limits on how long social landlords could take to investigate and fix issues for their tenants. Today, the King confirmed Labour's manifesto pledge that would be extended to private tenants too.
We all along have been campaigning for it to extend to private rented accommodation as well, because of course when people were enraged about what they'd seen, that wasn't actually an issue exclusively to social housing.
3 tragedies, 3 sets of campaigners, who will now all be keeping watch to make sure the King's speech is more than words. Phil McCann, BBC North West Tonight.
Well, our reporter Kevin Fitzpatrick was in Parliament for the King's speech, and earlier he told us about some of the other proposed changes which will affect our region.
Well, there was a huge amount in this speech. Essentially, it was the Labour government trying to show that it's going to put its manifesto promises into practice as quickly as possible. It's going to do that, it says, through planning reforms to build more houses. That could potentially see some greenbelt land in our region being developed. On transport, it's recommitted to linking Liverpool and Manchester with a high-speed rail line. It says it's going to bring the trains and the buses back under public control. That's already happened with the buses in Greater Manchester. And our region too has been a trailblazer when it's come to devolution. The speech today outlined plans for Westminster to hand more decision-making powers to mayors and council leaders. And it's also set out plans to enhance workers' rights and invest in green technology. Well, after 14 years out of government, one Labour MP told me they weren't hanging around.
Well, we're a government and a Labour Party getting on with changing Britain. I'm delighted to see so many ideas coming to life in the King's speech and the bills that will be brought to Parliament to make the real change that we've been elected to deliver.
Now, one disappointment for some MPs in our region was that the government didn't bow to pressure to remove the 2-child benefit cap. It prevents parents claiming universal credit or child tax credits for a 3rd or 4th child, and critics claim that is pushing families into poverty. Now, in reality, no government implements everything that's in the King's speech, but in terms of setting out their stall, it was pretty emphatic today that Labour intends on making some changes.
Kevin Fitzpatrick there. Now, the BBC understands it will be at least another week before Jay Slater's body can be flown home to Lancashire from Tenerife. Last night, around 100 people gathered for a service of remembrance at West End Methodist Church in his hometown of Oswestwhistle. The 19-year-old was found dead on Monday, a month after going missing. His friends have been speaking to us.
I used to go out with him round town. He was such a lovely lad. It's really upsetting. He was so lovely. He was just a really good friend, and I just want him to know that we all miss him, and we always will.
There's ribbons everywhere, people, schools painting pictures, and and like postcards and everything. So that just shows exactly what the community's like and how much it's affected us.
A roundup of some of the other news today now, and a police officer has been arrested following allegations of sexual touching and sending naked photographs of himself. The Greater Manchester custody officer, who hasn't been named, was detained on Sunday. He's been suspended over the alleged misconduct, which took place in May and prompted a complaint in June. A chain of independent restaurants are being blackmailed by criminals who've said unless they're paid thousands of pounds, they'll flood online listings with fake one-star reviews. Chef Andy Sheridan and his business partner Sam Morgan own and run 7 restaurants across the northwestern Midlands and have reported the scam to Google, Action Fraud and TripAdvisor. Cheshire Police are appealing to the public for help to find a missing teenager from Chester. 16-year-old Jamie Caulfield was last seen in Crewe on Tuesday the 9th of July. And a lollipop man from Lancashire who's retiring after more than 2 decades says he's planning to spend a mad week in Benidorm to celebrate. 86-year-old Arthur Parker has helped pupils at Leyland Methodist Junior School for 22 years. Mad week in Benidorm, eh? Now, this afternoon, the people running the NHS in Greater Manchester sat down to discuss how to slash £180 million off the budget. The organisation's one of only 3 in the country with a national enforcement notice for overspending and underperforming. Well, our health correspondent Jill Dummigan was there and joins us now. Jill, this is a real come-down, isn't it, for the so-called Devo-Manc-devolution agreement?
Yes, it's just over 8 years since Greater Manchester was handed £6.5 billion by the government to take over its own health and social care budget. At the time, it was heralded as a game changer, but now it's one of just 3 health systems under this enforcement order from NHS England, basically because they don't think that they can deliver. Now, a big part of this is to do with finance. Last year, NHS Greater Manchester predicted that they were going to break even. Hopefully, you can now see a graph with that prediction, with that plummeting line showing what actually happened and what they'd like to happen in the future. They ended up with a deficit of £400 million. That's now been reduced to £180 million, but the government wants that slashing further. Now, as it happens, the whole of the North West is currently in financial trouble. Yesterday, Cheshire and Merseyside and Lancashire and South Cumbria were among 9 organisations which have now been told to bring in consultants to help them cut costs. But with Greater Manchester, there's also this issue of poor performance. There's a higher proportion of people than the national average on waiting lists, particularly with waits longer than a year. A higher proportion of people stuck in hospital because provision isn't being made to get them out on time. Higher numbers of patients waiting for a long time in A&E to be admitted to hospital because there aren't any beds. It's also the worst place in the country for sending inpatient mental health patients out of the area, again, because there aren't any beds. All in all, NHS England is not happy. They've sent in a team to help sort this out, and this afternoon we heard from NHS Greater Manchester on what they're going to do about it all.
Look, we're making every effort we possibly can to avoid that. At the end of the day, we have a duty to balance our books. So I'm not going to rule out that we need to make changes to service, but we are virtually all the savings we're doing are to do with back office staff. They're to do with trying to improve our the way we prescribe for medicines and all these other things which don't impact directly on patients. So I'm convinced we are doing the very, very best we can to avoid any direct impact on patient care.
So, Jill, I guess the question now is, what are they going to do?
Yes, well, today's report was short on detail, but they say they're going to fix these issues, improve performance and reduce health inequalities. The key quote of the afternoon, though, was where are we going to disinvest? They've got to cut that £180 million. Now, they've already announced plans to considerably cut the population health budget, also to cut down on using private hospitals to bring down those waiting lists. You might think that would worsen quality rather than improve it. I put that to the Chief Executive of the NHS of Greater Manchester, Mark Fisher, after the meeting. I think we heard a little earlier what he had to say about that. He's confident that that won't happen. We're being promised more detail on this in September. In the meantime, they're going to embark on a communication exercise with staff and the general public to find out what we think about it all. OK, thanks very much, Jill. Jill Dummigan, our health correspondent there.
Right, as promised, we are now going to head back to Tatton, where Annabelle Tiffin is. There she is now, lurking behind my left shoulder. Clearly a woman in her element over there at Tatton, Annabelle.
I am in my element, and I am in our garden. Well, I say our garden, it's a little bit different this year. Instead of one garden, we have picked a handful of gardens, some that are the most memorable that North West Tonight have produced over the last 25 years. For instance, the Up Here garden, which was commemorating the victims of the arena bomb in 2017. Obviously, they are a lot smaller than the original versions, but we've had loads of people coming along to say hello and to have a look. Some people learning about the gardens for the first time, but others catching up with some of their old favourites. After 25 years, the show hasn't wilted in the slightest. In fact, today it positively bloomed.
I can't believe how beautiful the flowers are. I want to take all of them home, maybe a gardener as well.
Oh, hello. So what do you usually do when you're here? Just sit on a chair and admire everything?
That's it, yeah, that's it. Spend money.
This year we've shone a light on the North West Tonight gardens that have made us smile, remember and reflect. From Diane's Sunshine Garden.
The Florida Sunset Rose is just absolutely lovely as well, because the colour and the vibrancy of it just embodies her spirit, I think.
The Lockdown Garden.
It's lovely. It's just lovely to be here and for the sun to come out as well. Oh, we're here, yes.
And revisiting an old friend.
It was lovely. I said I must take a photo of him because we saw him all those years ago when we came to the show when he was first here.
2003 he was last here, yeah. When he came back from the show, he did another couple of shows and then he went back to the nursery and he lived behind the shed for, as we said before, 21 years.
Pudsey, what do you think of the garden? And what do you think of the other Pudsey? Oh. The show is going on the road for 3 years and it'll be missed.
Such a shame. I'm really disappointed about that. Well,
it's going on the road,
it's going on the road. We'll have to go and see some other ones, won't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We'll just have to travel. And I believe Fizz travels, so it'll be fine.
Looking into camera and then...
Well, I think Pudsey, the real one, and the one made from foliage were probably the most popular things in our garden today, if I'm absolutely honest. Now, this garden, as I said, this show rather, is 25 years old, but it's not going to be here for the next 3 years. It's going on the road. Let's find out why with show manager Lex. Why is this leaving this site and going off somewhere else?
It's not popular news, but we're taking it on the road to try and reach more budding gardeners. So we think that there's joy to be spread. So we're coming back in 2027. So you'll have to come and visit us then. Yes, it's on all the signage. So yeah, it's happening.
It's definitely happening. This year has been quite challenging, hasn't it? Because you've had a lot of rain. Although it's been lovely today.
It's been really nice today, but it was a very muddy build-up. So someone described it as the Glastonbury of gardening, which I'm going to take. Flowery dresses and wellies, I think, is the answer.
Yeah. Well, it's been absolutely wonderful again. Thank you so much for inviting us and letting us stay after it's closed as well. Now, one of the designers that has had to battle the rather awful elements is Sharon. And Sharon, you are a local garden designer, aren't you, from Bolton?
Yeah.
Just explain, because these are beautiful and these are your designs, aren't they?
Yes, well, they are sort of interpretations from RHS Bridgewater. They are little slices of what the real gardens are all about. So they're sort of pocket-sized, sort of bits of inspiration that people can take home. To sort of encourage people to, to do more gardening and to visit these gardens because they are on our doorstep.
Yeah.
And
Bridgewater being the newest RHS site as well, isn't it?
It is, yes, and it's purposefully designed as a visitor centre sort of garden. So yeah, there's lots going on there, and it's ever evolving as well. Yeah.
What is this one?
Oh, so okay, this is a woodland play area. So this is sort of taken directly from their sort of woodland play area in the gardens themselves. Yeah, so there's lots of planting involved and and sort of a little plate on them.
How long did it take you to do all of these?
So I was here from the 2nd of July and I'm still here. So yes, I haven't really sort of had a day off in that time.
It's a long time,
it is,
isn't it? I don't think we appreciate that when we come here, how much actual work goes into doing these gardens.
Yeah, but I really enjoy it. It's a big challenge, the long days. But yeah, I think to show the visitors around and to see their response is really nice. It's lovely.
Yeah, and you said earlier that we could possibly do this at home.
Yeah,
I don't know. Every year I come here and I take photos and I take inspiration and I think, do you know what, I'm going to do that in my garden. And then I don't. But
we live busy lives, so, but yes.
Yeah, but even if we just take a little inspiration.
Absolutely.
That's the way to do it.
It is achievable, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sharon, thank you so much. They are really beautiful. As I said, the show's going on till Sunday, so you'll be able to see these yourself. Now, this year, the focus of the Tatton Flower Show is particularly on gardeners, growers and designers like Sharon from the Northwest, from backginnels to wildflower meadows. The Northwest region really does have it all. Well, our environment correspondent Judy Hobson has been taking a good look around.
For the past 25 years, RHS Tatton Park has brought joy to thousands, and this year the gardens are as inspirational as ever. The buzzword this year is SUDS, or Sustainable Urban Drainage Systems.
If you live in Manchester, you know it's an incredibly rainy place and there's little to no action being done to sort of support drainage systems within gardening. Every single element that you can see in the garden has been reclaimed from somewhere. The granites come from driveways, the Indian stone came from a garden, even down to the soil that we're using, that's all reclaimed soil from Salford.
Sustainability was at the heart of many gardens this year.
And this is a rain garden planter. And what this does is capture rainwater that'll come off your roof, comes down your downpipe and into this rain garden planter. What would traditionally happen, that'd go straight down into a gutter, whereas this will slow the flow of water.
From climate change to health and well-being, the Booth Centre offers support and a safe space for people affected by homelessness. What is the thought behind this particular garden?
Well, we wanted here to have a little mini reproduction of what we have in Manchester, so it's a little bit harder to imagine when you're here surrounded by the trees and the greenery and the big blue sky, but in the centre of Manchester it is really a tiny little oasis, and it is so bright and colourful and vibrant, just like the community that it's serving.
And here, nature has taken over, a great way of using recycled and reclaimed items, all the idea of children at Reddish Hall School for pupils with complex educational needs.
We decided to get a bunch of old doll houses and paint them grey and then have a bunch of plants growing out of them. It kind of signifies the grey to green concept and plants growing out of concrete.
Over the years, many will have treasured memories of this show as it prepares to inspire others across the country. Judy Hobson, BBC Northwest Tonight at RHS Tatton Park.
It has been a fabulous day, and do you know what's really been the icing on the cake? The weather. Temperatures here today, it's felt like summer, finally. And there is good news, certainly for the next couple of days, because the headline is that it is going to be mostly dry and it is going to feel warm. Do you know what? In fact, it's going to feel hot at times. Now, cling on to that because I will tell you a little bit about the weekend when we get a breakdown. So short-lived summer, let's make the most of it over the next 3 days. But back to the here and now. Well, skies, we have got predominantly cloudy skies. For the most part though, it is dry and the breeze remains fairly gentle. And that's how it's going to stay as we head overnight tonight. There could be the odd occasional break, but generally it is going to be quite a cloudy night. And towards the end of the night, we start to get some showers coming up the Irish Sea. So I think for parts of the Isle of Man,
inland Cumbria, coastal parts, you could well catch the odd shower or two by the end of the night. Now, it's going to be a relatively warm night, 12 to 14 degrees, and the breeze remains fairly gentle. So first thing tomorrow morning, there could be those showers at first. They will lift and clear, and then we're looking at a much cloudier day than we've had today. But that said, as we head into late morning, afternoon, we should see it brightening up, and I think the best of the sunshine will be inland further south that you are. It's here where we'll get the highest temperatures, give or take 22, 23 degrees, and it'll start to feel quite humid. The breeze still fairly gentle, a bit cooler on the Isle of Man. If we look at the pressure chart, you can see what's going on. We're just clinging on to high pressure, and that high pressure is going to stay with us as we head through Friday. But low pressure starts to show its ugly hand, and that will push in as we head into the weekend. Exact timing and location of the rain that's coming, very uncertain at this stage. So it is one to watch. I will keep you right up to date. So let's focus on the positive, shall we? Friday. Now, it will be a muggy, humid night into Friday. I mean, temperatures overnight 15, 16 degrees. But Friday itself looks, at this stage anyway, really pleasant. Decent spells of sunshine. It is going to feel warm, if not in some spots hot, because we are looking at temperatures getting to about 23, 24. I think we can't rule out 25 degrees through Friday. Sun cream and lots of water are required. So that's the good news. Then we flip over to the weekend, and like I said, exact timings of this front that's coming through. It's a cold front. It does mean that the air is going to feel cooler, and the winds are going to strengthen as well. So a cooler, breezier day to come on Saturday with some heavy downpours at times. I'll keep you right up to date on that. It does look like it's going to stay unsettled until the beginning of next week. So let's focus on the positive, the warm, beautiful sunshine that we've had today, Annabelle.
It's been lovely, hasn't it? Yeah. And I know you predicted that it was going to be lovely, but you did also predict that there might be a tiny drop of rain. And I don't think there has been yet, although
we were sat at lunchtime, and I was like, what about no?
I know. It's incredible what they do when you think that they've been battling the elements to get these gardens together.
And if you remember last year, it was exactly the same. The build-up, the set-up, we were all there in big anoraks.
Yes.
And then, no matter what, I don't know what, it's magical. Tatton is magical, because the sun comes out.
Tatton is magical on the day that we are here, because it's not going to stay that way, is it? No. But we have loved being here, and we've loved being able to show off little bits of our gardens again over the last 25 years, because some of them have been so important and they meant a lot to us, and I know that they've meant a lot to you from what people have been saying today. But we did have a rather funny moment today when Kay and I were standing just about here, weren't we, chatting, and this lady came up to us, and we were ready to have our photo taken with her, and she just said, can you move out of the way, please, so we can get a photo with Pudsey. So, you know, no egos here, but yeah, it's been an absolutely fabulous day.
It has been beautiful. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a joy to see everyone, and I think I might try my hand at gardening again. I'll fail.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, it's good here for tips at least. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.